The humanitarian situation in Gaza's northern region continues to deteriorate, with Palestinian health authorities warning of dire conditions at the Indonesian Hospital in Beit Lahiya. 60 patients were reportedly at risk of dying due to lack of food and water, compounded by the Israeli military siege since early October. The Ministry of Health in Gaza stated that the wounded lack basic necessities, significantly worsening their suffering. Rescue efforts remain challenging, with victims trapped under rubble or unreachable by emergency crews following recent attacks. The overall death toll from Israel's war on Gaza, which began on the 7th of October, has reached over 44,700 people, according to Palestinian health officials. In Nusayrat's refugee camp, Israeli airstrikes on a residential building killed at least 7 and injured others, as reported by the Palestinian news agency Wafa. At the United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator Sigrid Kaag described the situation in Gaza as bleak during a briefing to the Security Council. She called for a ceasefire and the release of hostages, emphasizing the urgent need for humanitarian assistance.
In closed session about the utterly devastating situation in Gaza, I've spoken of the inhumane conditions in which our fellow human beings, civilians, are trying to survive, the young and the old. We've also spoken, of course, of the context and our hope for a ceasefire and the unconditional release of the hostages, that this would enable, obviously, a further surge of assistance. But ultimately, I have painted a very, very bleak picture as civilians in Gaza continue to suffer. And I've mentioned to the council members that I visited Gaza in the course of my life, different professional roles since the end of the 80s. As a volunteer, I visited as a UN staff member, I visited as a UNICEF regional director, and in 2020 as a minister. But nothing prepares you for what you see, what you hear, and the conversations you're having with your fellow human beings, Palestinians in Gaza. The impediments that the UN faces, that civilian faces, severely obstructs our ultimate goals, that aid reaches civilians. I've reminded the Council that from April this year, I've spoken about the risk of a breakdown in law and order, and particularly lawlessness, the looting. That's only, of course, exacerbated an already very difficult situation. It also impacts what's left of the social fabric and social stability.
Meanwhile, reports indicate ongoing negotiations involving Qatar for a potential ceasefire and captive exchange deal. Discussions are reportedly gaining momentum, although no agreement has been finalized. Amid the crisis in Gaza, Israel has also intensified military actions in Syria, conducting over 480 attacks in the past 2 days and seizing territory in the Golan Heights. A ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah and Lebanon still remains intact.